The Soldiers of Ares. Chapter 25. There was blood everywhere. The walls were literally painted with it, and the floor was littered with bodies. Freshly killed corpses of humans, satyrs, orcs, goblins, and dwarves lay all around the room. Even the Cyclops he had seen before was lying dead in a corner, its chest ripped open and covered in blood. He spotted the orc that was guarding them dead on the floor too. And right next to him, with a blank expression on his face, was the corpse of Monroe the dwarf. And standing in the middle of the room, surrounded by all this madness, was a man. He stood at about 6 feet tall, and he was dressed in full black. Not even a single part of his skin could be seen. Even his hands were covered in black gloves. He wore a long black trench coat with a hood. The trench coat was buttoned, and the hood covered his head. And underneath his hood was a skull. Maximus realized that it wasn't an actual skull, but a helmet covering his entire face, designed to look like one. Also, he had a gauntlet on his right hand, which was fitted with a long, sharp scythe blade, and he just stood there, surrounded by all those corpses, looking like a modern-day Grim Reaper. Mia peeked through the door as well to see what Maximus was staring at, but when she saw the sight, she began to scream, and Maximus had to put his hand over her mouth to make it stop. But it was too late. The man in black had already heard them. He turned to the door and said, "Come out." His voice alone was deep and cold. It was enough to send a chill down Max's spine. Also, it was clear from his tone it was an order which they had no choice but to follow. They stepped outside slowly. Maximus held his knife ready, but he was sure that if it came to a fight, they would probably join the Darwin Mafia. Mia was hiding behind him, trying her best to go unnoticed. The man in black looked at them. His skull-shaped helmet was fully white, and the eye sockets were covered by black visors. He walked up to them, and in his cold voice said, "Are you one of them?" Maximus realized that he was asking to see if they were part of the Dirt Pick gang. No, we're not. We were being held captive here, and..." Maximus began to say, but the man in black raised his hand to silence him. "A simple no would suffice," he said. "I can tell when someone lies to me." With that, he turned around and walked out the door without another word. The two of them still hadn't moved an inch. They just stood there frozen, as if even the slightest movements would summon him back inside. Finally, Maximus went ahead to check if he had left, and when he checked the street, there was no sign of him. It was as if the man in black had disappeared. "What in the name of Tartarus was that all about?" Mia asked. "I don't know, but the Dirt Picks seem to have pissed off the wrong people," Maximus said. He remembered Ajax saying that if the Dirt Picks kept expanding, then the authorities were the least of their worries. He wondered if this was what he meant. "Let's just get out of here. I really don't want to stand here in this slaughterhouse a moment more than I have to," Mia said. "Wait, I still don't have my sword," Maximus said. Mia nodded. "Yeah, my bags are with these dead guys too. Come on, I know where the storage room is." "And how do you know that?" Maximus asked. "I may have been here before scouting for some work, but they threw me out though when they caught me snooping around," she said like it was no big deal. Maximus reminded himself that her life was not his problem and followed her into the storage room. His money pouch was there, and so was Mia's bag, but still no sign of his sword. "Where is it?" he asked, getting frustrated again. "Was it really expensive?" Mia asked. Maximus wasn't sure what it would get on the market, but he nodded yes. "Then it might be in their boss's room." "Come on, it's on the next floor," she said. Before they left, she picked up the remaining money pouches and stuffed them into her bag. "What are you doing? Those aren't yours," Maximus asked. She frowned at him and said, "Yeah, well, dead guys don't need pocket money. But I do, okay? So stop acting all high and mighty and just keep walking." They went up to the next floor and saw the dead body of a minotaur lying in front of the boss's room. He seemed to have been standing guard before his chest got slashed open. They went inside to see a dwarf sitting on a big chair inside. He was wearing expensive-looking clothes, too. Maximus guessed that he was the Dirt Pick's boss. And like all the other members of his gang, he was dead. "Hey, I know this guy. His name is Roscoe or something, and he was the leader of the entire Dirt Pick crew. It looks like the guy in black is taking out the entire organization," Mia said. The sword was also there like she guessed. They took it and left the tavern fast as they could, and soon enough they had returned to the main market street. It was almost noon now, and the streets were busy again. No one even gave a second look at the two of them. They stopped at a small fresh juice stand to get something to drink. "So what do we do now?" Mia asked. "Shouldn't we tell the authorities about what happened in there?" Maximus nodded and said, "Don't worry about that. I'm planning to tell exactly what happened once I get back to the castle. But I got an errand I need to finish first." "What do you mean when you get back to the castle?" she asked. "That's where I'm staying," he answered. Mia's eyes widened when she heard this. "But you have to be like a guest of the king for that." "Well, I did meet the king once, but I guess we're more like the guest of his champion Ajax, he said, a bit pleased that she was impressed. She had her mouth open in amazement for a few seconds, then she asked, seriously, who the heck are you? And he just smirked at her. They finished their drinks and started walking again. So, as I was saying, there's something I have to do. So why don't you go home while I go get that done, Maximus said. Nice try, but I'm not letting you out of my sight. You may be the only chance I ever get for entering Athens, and I am not about to let that slip, she said. Besides, I'm a traveler, and everything I own is already in my bag. I usually just crash wherever I get a place to sleep. So, you're a hobo, Maximus said. She punched him on the shoulder for this. Her fist was tiny, but it still hurt a bit. I am not a hobo. I just move around a lot, okay? She huffed. Maximus realized that there was no arguing with her. All right, you can come along, but you can't mention this to anyone, even not to anyone back in the castle, he said. Why is that? She asked curiously. I don't really think it's any of your business, Maximus said, repeating her exact words from before. They walked over to the bus stop and waited. Where are we going? She asked. To the Colossus, he said. Your big secret is that you're going sightseeing, she said, holding back a laugh. Maximus scowled at her and said, No, I just need to find something near there. Well then, maybe I can help. I did spend a lot of time up in Mount Etna when I first got to the city, she said. Maybe bringing her along would be useful after all. Okay, do you know any caves near there that go deeper into the volcano? And I'm talking about where you can literally see the lava deep, he asked. Mia thought for a while and then she said, Well, there is one, but I've never been inside it. And it's a bit far away from the Colossus statue. Actually, it's a pretty remote area and people rarely go there. That's all fine, but can you get me there? Maximus asked, and she nodded. The bus they were waiting for came after a few minutes. They boarded it and traveled for about half an hour. They got off at the stop before the Colossus since Mia said the cave was closer from there. The desert sun was scorching above them as they started walking towards the cave. The walk was long and tiring, and their throats were parched by the time they got to it. When they got to the cave entrance, Mia said, Well, this is it. But don't think it will be any cooler inside. It's a volcano, remember, and it will only get hotter the deeper you go. Maximus nodded, and together they began to venture into the cave. It was dark inside, but luckily Mia had a flashlight in her bag. They walked through the cave, trying not to trip on any rocks. Mia was right. The deeper they went, the hotter it got, but there was still no sign of any magma yet. They kept walking until they began to see a glow coming from the end of the tunnel. As they reached it, they found themselves in a big clearing within the cave. It was like a huge dome within the volcano, and in the middle of the dome was a lake of magma. Well, there you have it, all the lava you want. Now can we get out of here before I catch on fire? Hold on, I didn't come here for the view. You know there's something I have to do, he said, and he climbed down. Mia decided to take a break and sit at the mouth of the tunnel. Maximus began to walk towards the lake with his sword drawn. If he understood what the voice had told him, he had to dip the sword in the lava and wait for something to happen. He was almost at the lava lake when he passed a peculiar-looking rock. It was a pretty big and wide-looking rock, but what was weird about it was a noise that was coming from it, kind of like a hissing sound. He went to check what it was and put his hand on it. To his surprise, he felt some sort of movement. Hey, Mia, you gotta check this out. There's something odd about this rock, he said. He turned back to look at her and was surprised to see her face was white as marble with fear. Max, I don't think that's a rock. Look up fast, she said. Maximus was confused, but he looked up anyway, and what he found was a giant snake's head coming out of the rock with its eyes fixed right at him. This has been a chapter from Book 1 of the new World Odyssey series, The Soldiers of Ares. Links to the books in the bio. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. See you in the next chapter.